right, Ryan Reynolds here for Mint Mobile. Are you looking for a beach read this summer? May I suggest your big wireless bill? It's got suspense, mystery, a slightly flat emotional arc, and a shocking twist where you realize you've been overpaying the entire time. Fortunately, though, Mint's story is better. Every plan, $15 a month. Even unlimited. That's it. Happy ending. Zero tears. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. See terms.
The Timeline is a Blue Wire podcast. Welcome to the Timeline, of Phoenix Suns podcast. We have actual basketball being played, depending on your definition of that. My name is Mike, here with Sam. How are you doing, Sam?
Hello, meatheads. I'm good. I'm happy to be here. We are fresh off of watching a Sun Summer League game. I've watched 2 Summer League games in the past 48 to 72 hours, I guess, are, I mean, they were certainly basketball by one definition. So, you know, I think, like, actually, legitimately, there was a lot of positive stuff to take away for the Suns in their first 2 Summer League games, and that's going to be the main focus of what we talk about today. But also, just, like, Summer League basketball, objectively, is so funny. Yeah. It's just so funny. It's, like, I give college basketball fans shit, being like, why would you want to watch this? And then I watch NBA Summer League, and I'm reminded, oh, yeah, it's like actually decently hard to put a bunch of professional athletes on a single court and make it look like a good product. You know what I mean? And not just like a slop fest, which Summer League often is.
Particularly if you haven't recently drafted someone who could, at the very least, cosplay as an offensive engine, which the Suns do not have. I think it's probably more fun and interesting to watch if you have DeBonsa out there or Peterson or Boozer.
Even Caleb
or
Wilson.
The top guys. Yeah. Because like that's what the Suns are obviously missing, and their offense really shows that they're missing it. But overall, I think there are obviously other motivations to watching Summer League. Like we watch it to see what Kaman Malawach is doing, what Rasheer Fleming is doing, what Koa Pete is doing, and what Kobe Brea is not doing.
We'll get there. We're not gonna punch down too hard on the 2-way contract guy and Kobe Brea at first, but that's obviously a conversation that needs to be had at some point. Where do you want to start?
I think come on, right?
I was gonna suggest Koa Pete just because it's interesting always to look. I think Kaman Malawach has probably been the most impressive player through the first 2 games. But Koa Pete's the new shiny guy, and I have a lot to say. Are you cool with us going towards Koa Pete first?
Yeah,
so
I'm down.
you know, I mean, obviously there's a lot of excitement about Koa Pete in general. I wasn't really sure what to expect from him in Summer League. I know we got the chance to talk about it a little bit last week. Like, you were kind of really on the side of wanting to unleash him. Is that fair to say? Like, you know, trying to see him. I was hoping to see
give
him
the ball. Yeah,
exactly. I was hoping to see him more in terms of what I thought his immediate role in the NBA would be, which is as this like kind of ancillary role player, use him as a screener. I think the big thing that stands out immediately is just he has an NBA body. Even as a 19-year-old, he's big. And he uses his length and his size really well already against, you know, other fringe NBA players. But yeah, you wanted to unleash him and put him on the ball a little bit, and I think it's been really fun to see through 2 games the way in which we've seen a little bit of all sides of Koa Pete already. We've seen the versatility. We've seen him play on ball, off ball. Yeah. And it's not saying much compared to like the other Suns prospects that have been drafted in the past few years who really like weren't drafted to be offensive players, right? Like Ryan Dunn or even Rasheer Fleming, Kaman Malawach even. But Koa's, yes, he's not an offensive engine. but he's way better than the rest of those guys at like creating offense for himself, right? Like there's a legitimate and others, but there's a legitimate excitement that you have, I think, already watching him with the basketball kind of size up a defense and be able to get downhill and create for either himself or another person. Through 2 games in Summer League, he's already doing that. He had 17 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists against Portland. A little bit less in terms of the raw stats today, only 12 points, 4 rebounds, and 1 assist. But still, getting it a little bit in all ways, except for obviously 3-point shooting, but getting downhill, drawing contact, drawing 2 to the ball, and then making a read for someone else. A couple of mid-range shots here and there. Outside of the lack of outside shot, which of course is going to like always be this a question that looms over his NBA career, but like he's looked really good so far. I've actually been super impressed with Koa Pete's offense through 2 games.
I'm very excited. You're right that he's a completely different kind of prospect than the Suns have drafted recently, for sure. Obviously, there's comparisons to Oso Ighodaro, but Oso is, even though he's kind of wing-sized, he's definitely a big with how he plays. Whereas Koa Pete, I think he can play small ball center minutes in his career just because he's so big and strong. He's definitely more of a wing. Like he plays like a wing that cuts, drives, and tries to get into that short mid-range or to the rim. And he has more just direct ball skills than Oso, it seems, just right out of the gate. You didn't mention it, but he's also
way less passive than Oso, too.
Yes,
you know,
he's
I think
not afraid to try to score. Yeah,
exactly.
Although Oso in G League or in Summer League, like he does look at the rim more.
I mean, Oso's made when we eventually do an internal development episode about him, you know, in a month, inevitably, like Oso's made great strides, I think, in the past 18 months regarding his ability to create offense for himself and actually look at the rim and want to attack. But compare Oso where he was coming out of college as already like a 21-year-old to where Koa Pete is right now, and Koa's level of aggression offensively and willingness to embrace the contact and try to get to the free throw line himself, even though he's not shooting a good percentage just in these 2 Summer League games, it's night and day. It really is.
Yeah, it's really, really impressive. Averaging also 7.5 fouls a game.
Oh, yeah, we should mention that.
Yeah.
That's one of those quirks about Summer League that is just very funny, like objectively very funny, that Koa Pete is averaging 7 fouls a game.
Yeah, they allow them 10 fouls, for those who don't know, in Summer League, and these are shorter games. They're 10-minute quarters. They're not quite full NBA games. But they still give them a ton of leeway to foul, and Koa Pete is taking advantage of that. Now, there's a question with Koa Pete right now where is he being overly aggressive defensively because they allow 10 fouls and he's just trying to test the level of physicality that he's allowed to have, coaching-wise, like somebody's telling him to do that? Or is he going to be foul-prone in the NBA? I'd say a little mix of both based on what I've seen so far. I'm not entirely sure that it's going to be a problem that haunts him here, but I do think that he's gotten some pretty poor calls. This is Summer League. We talked about this on our Patreon podcast, but the refs are bad in Summer League, and you just have to be okay with that because they're trying out newer guys that are getting used to the physicality, the speed, the size of these actual NBA prospects. So I'm not going to get too mad about the fouls for now, but it is one of those things where I'm just going to keep an eye on it going forward because Ryan Dunn, it's been a problem for. Kaman Malawach has had a little bit of issues in his NBA minutes fouling, has done a great job so far in Summer League staying out of foul trouble. So we'll see what it's like with Koa Pete. But I agree with you that I think what's cool about him, we saw it back-to-back earlier in this game, earlier today. He had the ball at the top of the key. They brought a guard that did an inverted pick and roll for him. He got down inside, and they scored. On the very next play, they pass it up to the guard, and they flip it. Now he's setting the screen for the same guard that set the screen for him on the previous play and then playing out of the short roll. There are not a lot of guys who can do that on the Suns. I mean, Oso Ighodaro, obviously Devin Booker can do it all, so you can throw him in that mix. Maybe a little bit of Colin Gillespie, and that might be it.
Yeah, I mean, there aren't many guys. You can count on one hand the number of guys on the roster where it really feels like they are a threat to both score and pass. You know, Dylan Brooks, you give him the ball in the middle of the floor, he's a threat to score. He's not a threat to pass. Oso Ighodaro, you give him the ball in the middle of the floor, he's a threat to pass. He's not a threat to score. Koa Pete, in the idealized version of him as a prospect, maybe he does both. You know, he's got at least an NBA-ready body and the instincts to be able to do both. Doesn't mean he's going to be able to do anything like remotely at the level of like Dylan Brooks or whatever, you know, even Miles Bridges in year one in the NBA. But you can see the vision, I think, when you watch his skill set out on the floor. And again, just the versatility of working the pick and roll from either angle.
Yeah, it's, you know, we almost saw a 3-point attempt. Technically, he has a 3-point attempt that he took towards the end of game 2, but it was one of those like heaves at the buzzer and a guy was coming up to try to block it, so he had to double clutch and just kind of shoot around him. Not a real attempt, airballed it really badly. It would have been kind of interesting to see it. We saw a clip of him shooting a 3 in practice. It looks really bad. There's just not enough behind his shot because of how he holds it up in front of his face when he shoots, and it's just sort of a flick.
Yeah,
and it's hard to shoot from far out if you're not getting some legs and arms behind it.
It's like a weird mix between Sean Marion in terms of, it's not like Sean Marion, but like in terms of having the ball at that release point in front of his face. And then it does have a little bit of Dylan Brooks to it as well, with this sort of, you know, herky-jerky, almost one-handed motion, like not enough kind of guiding the ball with his other hand. It's going to be a lot of work. You know, I'm encouraged by, again, to use that word, versatility, like the ways in which he's looking to score for himself in the mid-range. We haven't just seen one type of shot. Contrast to Rasheer Fleming, who, you know, I think in Summer League, we'll talk about him in more detail, but he's tried like, you know, a couple of off the dribble mid-range shots, hasn't really had any luck with it. Koa Pete, we've seen that good touch from 14 to 16 feet out, and we've seen him do it either working in from the post and then going to the turnaround, or pulling up, which he did, or even just like staying at the elbow. And like we were watching live on a stream today for our Discord, and you made a comparison to Carmelo Anthony, not to say that he's going to be Carmelo Anthony, but the way he sized up at, you know, at the elbow and like did the jab step and everything was like, you know, Melo-esque. So yeah, I mean the mid-range is a decent baseline for him at the very least.
He had, speaking of baseline, the one turnaround at the baseline that I thought was really good, kind of Devin Booker-esque with the footwork as well, where the defense was pretty good on the spin move on the fadeaway, but he still was able to get up like off his 2 feet and shoot above it and made it. And yeah, there's something there. I think, you know, Kellen joined us briefly. We were streaming on our Discord. Kellen joined us briefly, and he mentioned these moves that we're seeing him score with, these are his moves. He has 2 or 3 go-to moves, and the question will be, once he's on the scouting report, if he ever gets there, right, if he's actually playing some minutes, what can he do then? If they're prepared, if they sit on it so he can't spin, right, or if they're able to get their feet there so that he's actually actually charging into them and getting an offensive foul, can he counter, and what can he do in those scenarios? And that'll dictate whether or not he plays. Now, let me ask this, speaking of whether or not he plays. Let's say he does get minutes. Who's he getting minutes over?
Ryan Dunn.
I mean, that's the first guy you think of, right?
Yeah, it would be a case where, I mean, it's a little bit hard because, first of all, you think about what Koa Pete already is good at, and there's a real capacity, I think, to use him as a transition weapon. The fact that he can grab a defensive rebound and just go himself. At times last year, and not just last year, like in general, the Suns just play too slow. It happened during the CP3 era. It happened during the KD and Beal era. And even last year, you know, they continued to play too slow. And I look at a guy like Pete and I think, wow, okay, if they really need some minutes where they speed up the pace of the game, this is the guy they should be playing. Now, playing him over Ryan Dunn doesn't necessarily help them in that capacity, like just pace, because Ryan Dunn, you know, creates turnovers and gets out in transition, whatever, too. But with Koa, it's like, how do you maximize him? You need to play him next to some level of spacing. And the Suns don't have a lot of that just on the roster right now, which is going to be the first-year challenge of finding him effective minutes, right? What is the lineup? Like, are you just going to always have Koa Pete on the floor with like Luke Kennard, running inverted pick and rolls between Koa Pete and Luke Kennard, or something. It's like you're gonna have to find, or playing him with Booker, of course, but like you need to find some way to space the floor for that guy because he's not really going to be playing small ball center. To your point, maybe at one point in his career he can, but he's not going to be your first, second, third, or even fourth choice on this roster as a rookie to play center. So if he's on the court, he's probably a power forward, and you need spacing in order to get the most out of him offensively, and there are limited ways to do that with how the Suns are currently set up.
Next question on that. Very early, obviously, 2 summer league games. We're just seeing him right now. We kind of have a good idea of where the roster is at as far as depth right now, depth chart. Do you think he'll be getting minutes this season based on what we've seen so far? And obviously we could change this opinion. I'm just curious like how you feel about the minutes that we've seen.
I do. Now I know that Jordan Ott last year showed like a heavy predilection towards always playing the shooters.
Except Oso.
That's what I was about to say. Heavy predilection towards playing the shooters unless a guy is like really has NBA feel and skills. And I feel like Koa Pete, I don't want to say too much and be like too excited about the guy after 2 summer league games, but I really think the offensive talent package for a guy they drafted at 30th overall, plus like, where his athleticism is pretty impressive. And I think there is a pathway for him to play real minutes over guys who just don't have that offensive potential, like Ryan Dunn, maybe even over Rasheer Fleming at some point. I really don't know. Like, a lot of things could happen, and a lot of things would have to swing right. Again, we're talking about a guy who's committed 15 fouls through 50 summer league minutes. Which is insane. Mm-hmm. So, like, can he get out there for 10 to 12 minutes a game as a rookie? I think that's possible.
I think I agree with you to some extent. Like, I don't really guarantee it. There's no Royce or Grayson to play over him. Obviously, they have Miles Bridges. They have Rasheer Fleming. But they don't have anyone with a skill set like this with the potential like him. Because he's 19 and he's already showing some interesting stuff against better competition, it's just hard. Like, I understand, and I sort of defended Jordan Ott, I think, for not playing Kaman Malawach early in the season. He just looked really bad every time he stepped onto the court. And I was happy to see him play more in the second half of the season, particularly, of course, when they had the injuries that required him to play. But I always thought that opportunity was coming for him at some point, and it didn't bother me that he didn't play. And Rasheer Fleming, too. I think Rasheer Fleming just had to... It sounded like the issue with him was confidence. When you talk about them, or when you hear them talking about him, that seems to be the thing that stands out the most. But with Koa Pete, the skill set's different. It's just different in a way that they don't have a lot of guys who do the things that he does right now. And the passing, the level of playmaking that this team has is so low. So while I don't think he's going to come into the NBA as a guy who can't score, who has 2 or 3 offensive moves... I mean, maybe he can score, but we'll see. He can't shoot. We know that for sure.
Yeah, can't shoot, for sure.
And, like, I'm not going to say they have to play him, but I think there's a chance that he's given a little bit more of an opportunity than Kaman and Rasheer were because of the way that this roster is set. There's not a bunch of guys in front of him that do the things that he does. They do different things, but... Like, Rasheer Fleming, if he dribbles more than twice, you're a little scared, and we'll talk about him later.
Of course,
but like with Koa Pete, you're not really going to be. And maybe in the NBA, he's going to get it stripped from him a lot, too, or offensive fouls or whatever, but at least there's something there to build off of, like a baseline skill set that you could project towards the NBA in the future. Either way, I'll say this, and I said it on our Patreon podcast, I just think that I'm going to enjoy watching him play. I just... like when players have natural feel for the game. These guys are always really valuable. Dario Saric was like that, where you pitch him the ball and there's not... the processing speed is a little bit faster than other guys. And you could see that with Koa Pete right away. And I hope that's something that they can find a way to build off of. I actually think he's a really interesting piece for any good coach to have, where maybe he won't play a lot, but there's going to be matchups where... there's just a chance where he can look at it, Jordan Ott can look at this team and say, this is the guy tonight. This is the guy that's getting 20 minutes tonight. And we're going to see how it looks against this specific style of defense. Maybe they switch a lot and he can punish the switch or whatever it's going to be. I'd like to see that. Maybe there's a lot
and
of
again,
size,
if they feel like they're in a good place in terms of his motor and the motor of the guys around him, and that affects other things like rebounding as well, then he's going to look better the more you can play him next to some shooters. So, if you can play him next to Rasheer and Rasheer's playing small ball 5 and actually hitting his threes, or if you're playing him next to Malawach, who, is taking a lot of threes in Summer League, then you might have an opportunity to do some interesting stuff there and just maintain a lot of size on the floor. So I'm really excited about the Suns bench this year. It's just their bench has a lot of fun combinations. I'm frankly way more excited about their bench than I am about their starting lineup. But that doesn't mean their bench is going to be better than their starting lineup. It just means it's a lot of interesting players who can kind of do one thing pretty well and maybe not everything. So we'll see.
If your business runs on 5 different apps, 12 browser tabs, and one spreadsheet that everyone's afraid to touch, it's probably time for Odoo. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that connects every part of your business into one powerful, easy-to-use platform. So instead of wasting time switching between disconnected systems, your entire business works together in real time. Your team moves faster, your data stays accurate, and you can actually focus on growing your business. Let one unified system run your entire business. From the first opportunity to the final payment, everything works together in one place. Whether you're a small business or managing a large operation, Odoo gives you one flexible platform built to grow with you. Learn more at odoo.com. That's ODOO.com.
You've heard us talk about Alchemy Roast before, but if you still haven't tried them, consider this your reminder. One of the things I appreciate about Alchemy is that they're focused on the coffee itself. They source quality beans, roast in small batches, and pay attention to the details that make a difference in the cup. Whether you're making pour over, espresso, or just a standard drip coffee at home, it's the kind of coffee that makes you look forward to your morning routine. And if you're someone who drinks coffee every day, upgrading what you're brewing is one of the simplest changes you can make. And you've been hearing these ads thinking, I'll check it out later. Well, now is a good time. Head to alchemyroaster.com and use the promo code TIMELINE to get 10% off your order. That's alchemyroaster.com, promo code TIMELINE today to support them, a local Phoenix business, and to support us here on this podcast.
If your business runs on 5 different apps, 12 browser tabs, and one spreadsheet that everyone's afraid to touch, it's probably time for Odoo. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that connects every part of your business into one powerful, easy-to-use platform. So instead of wasting time switching between disconnected systems, your entire business works together in real time. Your team moves faster, your data stays accurate, and you can actually focus on growing your business. Let one unified system run your entire business. From the first opportunity to the final payment, everything works together in one place. Whether you're a small business or managing a large operation, Odoo gives you one flexible platform built to grow with you. Learn more at odoo.com. That's ODOO.com.
You want to talk about Come On?
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
I didn't want to bury the lead because I do think he's been the best among all these guys. It's
well,
just,
yes.
Copied is new.
I agree with that. He just looks the most solid within the role that he's asked to play. Although he did have 7 turnovers in game 1. We should mention that, but he did clean that up.
Did.
I'll say this, 7 for 15 shooting, 3 for 7 from 3. This is game 1. 19 points, 11 rebounds, 2 steals, 1 block, 7 turnovers. 2 of those were offensive rebounds. Game 2, a little less scoring, but still very efficient. 5 for 9, 2 for 4 from 3, 15 points, 15 rebounds. 1 assist, 1 steal, 2 blocks, 0 turnovers. 1 bad pass that resulted in a turnover, but not like a egregiously bad pass like he had multiple of in game 1. And I think a mixture of those 2 games is probably what we're going to see from him to start the season.
Can I throw in another stat?
Yeah, of course.
The Suns overall through 2 games, they've won 1, they've lost once. They are a -4 as their overall point differential. Kaman Malawach playing, about half the time in these games because there's a lot of guys who need to be cycled through. He's a +16.
Mm-hmm.
So he's playing, of course, at the Summer League level, but he's getting legitimate volume production in the sense that he's scoring more, he's rebounding more, he's blocking shots, and he's also been quite impactful in doing it, I think, in terms of like his plus-minus has been the best on the team.
He had a great moment today too. I mean, he played well in general in the first 2 games, but there was a moment where Rasheer Fleming was leaking out on a fast break, and the guard like pitched up the ball to Rasheer Fleming. Rasheer Fleming was clearly in front of the defense, and the defender for the Pelicans just sort of swung down and grabbed Rasheer as he was raising up to go for the dunk. And it wasn't like a dirty foul, really. I don't think. In fact, they even reviewed it and just ruled it a common foul. But Malawach didn't like it, and he immediately ran up to him and said something to him in his face to defend Rasheer Fleming. And that's the kind of stuff that I see that I'm like, this is great. This is great. I just love seeing that stuff because I want him to just be constantly aware that he's the biggest guy out there. Like, he's just so huge, and you should find ways to take advantage of that outside of just getting rebounds and of course, defending at the rim, which, by the way, he's done a really good job of both of those things. You mentioned it, too. He had 11 rebounds in Game 1. He had 15 rebounds in Game 2, and in those 2 games, he's averaging 27 minutes. That's a lot of rebounds in those minutes. That he's getting quite a few rebounds so far in these games, and his defense at the rim just remains solid. He's just so huge.
Their half-court defense in general through 2 games, like as a team, has looked really connected and generally really good. It's their offense that's largely a travesty.
Yeah,
but like they're mostly making up for it on defense.
Significantly better when Kaman Malawach is out there, though. I think you look at that +10, and I think he actually helps the offense too, just by being a legitimate role threat. And frankly, there's just less size to play against in Summer League than there is in the NBA because all the best huge guys are in the NBA already. So Kaman really dominates as far as size goes. He's going to be up against dramatically different competition in the NBA, obviously, but in this setting, this is what you want to see. Like when he comes out and plays, like I don't expect him to like score 35 points or whatever, like Caleb Wilson. That's just not his game. What you want to see is what he's done in these 2 games, which is get out there, play well, be efficient, cut down the turnovers, which through 2 games he's averaging 3.5 or whatever. Like that could potentially go down as we go forward. The 7 turnovers in Game 1 was kind of a scary moment where it's like, no, we got some of this out of him. I don't want to see it again. And it came back in Game 1. But yeah, it's already gone in Game 2, and hopefully he continues to trend lower, significantly lower than those 7 turnovers. But to be able to play a role, to play well defensively, to set good screens, to roll to the rim, and to hit threes, like that's really the story so far. 2 for 4 in Game 2. And what was he? 3 for 7. So what is he? 5 for 11?
5 for 11. That's like 45%.
If he can shoot, if he can hit threes, hit around 40%, ideally, of his threes. I said it before. He's better than Mark Williams. If that's all he does, he could be better than Mark Williams
Mike,
this year.
We're gonna do the over/under episode, and you're gonna be responsible for setting his line. I'm telling you right now, 40% is way too high.
No, I don't think he'll shoot 40%. But I'm just saying, like he's at 45 right now, so.
I'm like, can he shoot 36 on wide open threes?
That's like a great percentage for a
If
center.
he shoots 36 on wide open threes in the NBA next year, then, that's great. Yeah.
He looked great, looked physical, especially in Game 1. And, in fact, let me look at his fouls. He had 5 fouls in Game 1, which kind of makes sense. But he was playing, I think, a little bit more physically in Game 1, particularly on the boards. And maybe it was the competition. He didn't have to do it the same way against New Orleans. But that physicality, and by the way, we'll talk about that with Rasheer, too, who I think amped up his physicality in these games, too, and just understands it a little bit better. But that physicality is going to be really important for Kaman. We just want to see him be out there pushing guys around and being super, super, super physical. And he did a good job of it in this one. You know what we haven't mentioned? They lost Game 2. They won Game 1. I think that really is indicative of what Summer League is to us. Because if you're looking at this hoping for a win, maybe you'll be disappointed by game 2. I'm not, personally.
Well, yeah, it was a little disappointing only in the sense that, and I mentioned this to you while the stream was happening, like they were just consistently in the game today against the Pelicans. It was always within like 8 points, and then they would go on a defensive run and cut it down to like 2 or 1, but their half-court offense could never get it together. And that's just what happens when you have a lot of players who you're drafting who are kind of defense-minded players and not necessarily offensive talents. But like, to reiterate, the Suns today had 10 assists to 18 turnovers, which is hilarious. Like that's what I talk about when I say I can't talk shit on college basketball. If I'm watching my team in Summer League play, and get 10 assists in 40 minutes to 18 turnovers. That's horrendous. So shout out to Darius Brown, who had a good game today as the starting point guard. He was one of the only guys keeping their offense afloat for a good chunk of the game.
Yeah. He we'll talk about the other guys, I think, later on. What else stood out about Kaman to you?
It's really the 3-point shooting again. The form is just good for a big of his size. You really do get the feeling watching Malawach that he is a guy who is a really fast learner. Like, it's remarkable. You just think sometimes it's remarkable that this guy is in the position he's in, given he only started playing basketball like 6 years ago now. And I don't know. I still have a lot of confidence in him based on what we've seen through 2 games. They were clearly scared off a little bit by the 7 turnovers in game 1 and thinking, okay, maybe we need to slow down with just like, we're not going to run offense through him as much as like that would be a nice fantasy to think about some long, distant future where he really is like controlling an offense himself.
Yeah.
But in terms of his ability to make an impact next year by doing dirty work, grabbing rebounds, blocking shots, and maybe just being a little bit of a floor spacer, he feels like a really good third string center right now. And if he keeps playing like this, like no reason that he can't be, come February, the full-time backup 5 for the Suns, right?
Or
the starting center. I mean,
yeah.
It's possible.
They're not going to start Oso, and Oso's better than Mark Williams, but I don't think he should be a starter.
Yeah, it's possible. That would be interesting. Like, because of course, an injury could open up minutes at any time. And if an injury opens up minutes for Kaman in the first few months of the season, like I have faith in him. I believe that he can step into those minutes, and in the regular season he'll be fine. Can we actually get to the point where like we trust him as a starting center in year 2, and like that would make Mark Williams expendable and maybe available in February for a trade, and you could package him with some other contracts, and we could start to have some more fun with the idea. Like obviously that's an attractive premise to me, but we need to see a lot more from Malawach.
Even if he was a starter,
we need to
like
see a lot
sort
more
of
consistency.
I think there's a type of starter that could play less minutes than the backup, and Oso actually earns more of those minutes, and I think that's possible. The Suns have done that in the past with guys too. But yeah, I think in some ways being good in Summer League doesn't matter. But if you come back year 2 and you're bad in Summer League, that sometimes matters. I feel like that would stick out a little bit more to me than somebody just being bad in Summer League or someone being really good in Summer League. Because sometimes these guys will have a good 8 games or six games or whatever it is in Summer League that you've never heard of before. And it's like, how do I know if that's good or bad, or if they were just hot from 3 for a few games? And that's really all it points to.
They're having TJ Warren bubble runs in Summer League.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm just like, Kaman Malawach has had a good second year of Summer League through 2 games, and that does make me feel better about this coming season to the extent that it could. It doesn't add like a lot of confidence to how I feel about him next year, but it doesn't take away from that. And I think there are the types of games that can happen where that could actually take away from your confidence as a player. And I think it's nice that he hasn't had that at the very least. Do you want to talk about Rasheer, or do you have anything else on Kaman?
I think we can move on for now. If there's something I forgot to bring
we'll
up,
come back.
I'll find a way. But yeah, let's move on to Rasheer.
Rasheer Fleming, game 1, 6 points, 3 for 9 shooting, 0 for 4 from 3, 10 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 turnovers, 2 steals, 2 blocks, including 3 offensive rebounds. Really, really good rebounding game for him in game 1, actually. He was really getting after it. Game 2, he had 11 points, better scoring, 4 for 10, made 1 3 finally. He's made 1 overall of 8 attempts. 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 turnovers, 1 steal, and 2 blocks. 2 pretty amazing blocks. By the way, Kaman Malowich had a really great series where he pick and roll dunk, and then back on the other side, it had a really nice recovery block after getting kind of beat.
That's the remarkable thing about Kaman, is that sometimes he's just like more than a step out of position, but he is so long that his ability to make up for, his own mistakes is just like, he has so much more capacity for that than your average NBA player, your average NBA athlete. He just finds a way to get back into plays. And to an extent, this guy, Rasheer Fleming, does the same thing and has done the same thing in the past 2 games as well.
What do you think about him so far?
Look, offensively, he's struggled. He's tried a couple of times to self-create for himself, which I would always encourage a guy to do who's on an NBA contract in Summer League. This is your time to experiment and try and do some funky things. That has not been successful, and that's one of those things where it's like, oh, okay, I can see why Koa Pete is just like a little bit more interesting for a 19-year-old prospect to have the kind of offensive chops that he does, whereas Rasheer Fleming is much more of like, a do it, a little bit of everything role player. But his role in the NBA is going to be a little bit different. I think it's unfortunate that he really hasn't found a shot yet. He's only made 1 3. I am not super worried about that because with Rasheer, it's like the volume is a little bit lower. The release maybe looks a tad quicker, but honestly, I don't know. I'd have to like watch it back.
It looks fine.
Yeah, it looks fine.
It doesn't look bad, which is good.
It doesn't look out of the ordinary one way or the other, right? In either positive or negative way. So I'm just going to trust that, he'll have more of a sample size over the next few games. I don't know if they're going to shut down him and Malowich at some point in Summer League here, if they're only going to play like another game or 2. But, if he takes more shots, I would hope eventually in this Summer League he'll have one where he makes a few threes. Defensively, he continues to be good at the things that I think already he's defensively good at. He's a good help defender. He can make up for mistakes. Honestly, it's even fun, like with him, and I've seen Koa Pete do this too, the way that you can have them kind of in the back covering for the defense, like to tag a roller, and in addition, like having Malowich, out to hedge. They're having Malowich on a couple of plays today hedge way higher than I feel like we ever saw him really during the regular season. Because if you have another big body, down in the paint, whether that be Fleming or Koa Pete, then, maybe you can hold off the offense in that way. So defensively, I think Rasheer was good as like kind of a team defender, an off-ball defender. I don't know how well he can really hold up on the perimeter. Do you have any opinions on this?
I didn't think he was... Like, I would say the only thing he's really been good at is defense and rebounding in these games, and I actually think the defense has mostly been impressive by him in these first few games. There's been times where somebody will mess up a switch and somebody will mess up like a scram or something, and he's just there to erase it for 1 extra second, which allows the rest of the guys to sort of recover back to who they were supposed to be guarding. And he's kind of the only guy that has those moments in Summer League where it's just, maybe it doesn't lead to a block or a steal, but maybe 1 or 2 passes down the line, it leads to a missed shot, but nothing goes in the stat sheet because of it.
Well, you saying that reminded me. Here's how I would actually put it. Out of the 2 of them, the 2 forward prospects, him and Koa Pete, Rasheer is the guy who has those moments off the ball.
Yes.
And he's the guy who has those instincts to make up for others' mistakes in terms of overall scheme. But what's been surprising to me on the flip side of that is I actually think Koa Pete's been the better on-ball defender. He's been the better point of attack defender through 2 games.
And the worst off-ball defender is what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm saying they're just through these 2 games. I'm just talking about these 2. I'm not talking about like overall who they are as prospects.
Yeah.
But they've been inverses of each other. Where like I think Koa Pete has
on both sides of the ball, funny enough.
Yeah, I think Koa Pete's moved his feet on the perimeter way better than I was expecting in a couple of cases. But broadly speaking, I still think the Suns have like this big point of attack defensive issue. Mm-hmm. And when I look at Rasheer, I think he's good defensively at a lot of things, but I don't see him. I don't see him solving that.
See, I guess I feel better about that. I don't know.
I mean, like, point of attack right now, it's like it just feels like we have Jordan Goodwin to sick on guys, who's fun. Don't get me wrong.
No,
he's
good.
Like, he can pressure 94 feet, and he's fun. But outside of him, everyone else on the roster is kind of just a little bit not built for that particular role, it feels like to me. Unless someone like Ryan Dunn takes a big step up, But I don't necessarily see that right now for Rasheer. Malawach, too, is like, I respect Malawach's versatility, but like, when he does get switched onto a guard, he can get shook pretty easily. And then it's more so just a question of, can he make up for it and still contest at the rim in spite of the fact that the guard was able to create the space.
Interestingly, with Malawach, since you brought it up, in pick and rolls, they had him trap multiple times in this game. And trapping with a guy like Kaman Malawach is just so enveloping because of the length of the arms and the legs, makes it so hard to pass out of a trap. And I think it mostly worked in the 2 or 3 times that they tried it in this game. And I'm curious if that's something they're going to try a little bit more. I liked when they did that because they didn't just do it in like the G League with him. They tried it a few times in the NBA too. I actually think, you see a guy as huge as Kaman and you think, yeah, he needs to be in a drop all the time because you have to have him at the rim. Like, I think Kaman might have some good steal numbers in the NBA once he really gets used to the speed of the game, because having limbs that long also impacts the passing lanes. And I actually think if you get him out there on the perimeter occasionally with a little bit of help in those traps, I think you could actually force some turnovers in ways that would really help the Suns. And I think they should actually experiment with that. And they do that, by the way, just to get back to him, with Rasheer Fleming as well, who can either switch or play up high or do whatever. He can kind of do it all defensively a little bit when he's off the ball. But I do think that they should experiment a little bit more with him as a point of attack defender in general. Like, if he can do it, especially against the bigger guys, like, guys like, I can't even think of a guy right now, LeBron or something like that, Jaylen Brown or something, then I don't know, maybe he could earn a starting spot by the end of the season. Because as you talk about it, I'm thinking about the starting lineup again, and it's like, who's gonna guard a lot of those guys? I mean, it's got to be Dylan Brooks, but you kind of need two.
It's a really awkward fit, just with what a lot of the players in the starting lineup, at least what we expect to be the starting lineup, what their skill set is. But anyone who's going to step into the place of whether it's Miles Bridges or Jalen Green or Mark Williams, if there's going to be a substitution at some point, they need to be able to shoot. And that goes for Malawach if he's going to be a starting center, but it also goes for Rasheer Fleming. So see if he's able to shoot a little bit first.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see these guys play. Fleming has sort of been, of the 3 actual NBA players, maybe a little bit more invisible, if you will, than Koa Pete. But I think that just lends itself to what his role is going to be in the NBA. It's
just the type of player he is. You know, he's just not going to be able to do the same stuff. But, I want to see the offensive rebounds, and we've seen a couple of those.
Well, I actually think the first game he was so intense with his rebounding, really chasing it, really hitting guys. And in the second game, there was a little less of that. And
he
I think
did strip a guy and go end to end, I want to say.
Yeah, that was so nice. That's when he got fouled, actually, when Kaman went to help him. It was a nice steal.
Right.
Kawhi-like steal, where he's just picking it on a crossover from the opposite side in a crazy way because the limbs are so long. But I do think the intensity that he goes for rebounds needs to be ratcheted up to Jordan Goodwin level in order to get more minutes on the floor, because the 3-point shooting will help him get there. But creating extra possessions will keep him on the floor. Like if he really gets 3 offensive rebounds a game or whatever, he can find a way to ratchet, which I think he's actually I don't think that's completely out of the question for him. I'm not asking too much, I don't think. Then he stays on the court, man. He might get 20, 25 minutes a game if he's doing stuff like that regularly. The way that Jordan Goodwin couldn't be taken out of the game ever. He was like the most important player towards the end of the season. That's the type of thing that Rasheed Fleming needs to really understand. And I think he does. Like, I think they're telling him that. He just has to make sure that it's a consistent thing for him. And, of course, keep hitting threes, which he hasn't done. And, the 3-point percentage last season was pretty good. It's not a guarantee that it's going to be pretty good next year. So
what was it? Off the top of my head, I want to say like 36 for Rasheed.
I was thinking 34.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, but I'm not exactly sure. But if that's something that can carry over into next season and he continues
34.6.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So.
A combination of what both of us said, if you think about it.
Yes, sure.
I'm never wrong.
I basically nailed it, and you were almost nailing it. So yeah.
If your business runs on 5 different apps, 12 browser tabs, and one spreadsheet that everyone's afraid to touch, it's probably time for Odoo. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that connects every part of your business into one powerful, easy-to-use platform. So instead of wasting time switching between disconnected systems, your entire business works together in real time. Your team moves faster, your data stays accurate, and you can actually focus on growing your business. Let one unified system run your entire business. From the first opportunity to the final payment, everything works together in one place. Whether you're a small business or managing a large operation, Odoo gives you one flexible platform built to grow with you. Learn more at odoo.com. That's ODOO.com.
So yeah.
Let's talk about something I was wrong about, because we're 40 minutes in now.
Okay.
Kobe Brea, is this where we start playing taps? Can you start playing taps in the background? Day is done. Gone the sun. No, I'm sorry. Kobe Brea has been terrible. It's been a really tough watch through 2 games. He even played 31 minutes tonight or this afternoon, which is over 75% of the game. And he shot 1 for 10 and had 2 points. And I want to believe that he's going to have better games than this because he has to. Like, he's 2 for 17 through 2 games. I don't think the rest of Summer League could be this bad. But it's just a really tough look for him right now because, what's he going to do in the NBA is, of course, the question.
Mm-hmm.
Any Kobe Brea thoughts?
Remember those games where, like, Royce O'Neal would regularly be like, I'm hitting 5 threes tonight. I'm hitting 6 threes tomorrow night. And then there would be like a 2 or 3 game stretch where he would just go 0 for 7 in like 3 games in a row.
Yeah,
welcome back, Royce O'Neal.
Maybe Kobe Brea shoots like 8 for 10 from deep in the next game. And, 3-point shooting is supposed to be his skill. So it's just really hard when even that is not firing and you're just not seeing anything else. Like, he can dribble the ball without turning it over, which I commend. But he's not, like, he's just too slow to be a space creator. And I guess I was kind of hoping that there would be, like, maybe some untapped potential there for him to be, in some small secondary, tertiary type of way, a playmaker or space creator. And we're just not seeing it even at the Summer League level, which is just a tough look because, he's a 6'5", 6'6" guy with a neutral to negative wingspan. And the NBA outlook is really tough right now. It's damn near impossible to see with the way things are going so far for Kobe Brea.
It's the thing about these guys that heavily rely on one specific thing. If that thing's not working, they look really bad. And, 0 for 6 from 3 in this game. And I don't think he's made a single 3, right? What was he in the first game? 0 for 4. Games. So he's 0 for 10 from 3 in 2 games.
And they haven't, it's a small sample size for 2 games, but these 10 threes that he's missed, they haven't been close.
Yeah. And some of them have been wide open, like really open. And it's tough because those don't go in. Yeah, he's not going to provide anything else. He's not out there getting defense or getting assists. He can occasionally create for himself from mid-range, which actually has been something that this team kind of needs.
Yeah, I think he did make like that was his only bucket tonight.
Yeah.
Was a mid-range shot.
Yeah. So, you saw it once today. I don't think we saw it at all, maybe once in game one as well. Just like a mid-range pull-up shot, which he kind of needs to do. But, I guess, although it's not looking good, he's on a two-way, and I think with these guys, I believe in his shooting a little bit. Maybe I'm wrong, though. But I believe in his shooting enough to go, I don't know, sometimes you just miss them. And, it's hard to really know if this really matters to what he's going to be. But, low stakes, right? Two-way guy, we don't really know what he's going to be. They could cut him if they want, replace him, just like they did with C.J. Huntley last year.
It's for sure low stakes. It's more so just thinking in terms of, right now the Suns have one open two-way spot. They could potentially create another open two-way spot if they were to cut a guy like Kobe Brea. Pat Spencer, who's signed to one of the two-way spots right now, is a 30-year-old, which is kind of hilarious to think of, a 30-year-old being on a two-way, but is a guy who you absolutely believe could step into NBA minutes next year. And if he needs to eat up some minutes because of injuries in the regular season, he can eat up some minutes. He can play 15 to 18 minutes in a rotation role and not sink you in the process. And the idea with a guy like Kobe Bryant in one of the other two-way spots is that, he's more of a project, but that there's some higher potential down the road. Right now, we're not even seeing the potential. So there might be a certain cutoff point where it is low stakes, but eventually eventually you get someone else in that spot instead who you think could be more of an instant contributor. I don't think we're there right now after 2 Summer League games, but it's obviously has to be in the back of your mind.
Yeah, but if he has 5 threes in game 3, then it's okay, cool. This is what we expect out of him occasionally, and I would be less concerned. We'll see. I will say, since you're on it, just the idea of potentially replacing him with another two-way, that is one of the purposes of Summer League. Some of these guys get jobs after this. They get two-way contracts because of how they performed in Summer League. Have any of the other guys who have played for the Suns stood out for you in any way that you would feel comfortable with them actually playing a role on the Suns as a two-way next year?
Not really. It's difficult to say because in game 1, Javonte Cook was the guy because he was damn near flawless in terms of his shooting. He's listed at 6'6", maybe looks a little bit shorter than that to me. So he's not really forward-sized, but has the ability to heat up offensively in any given night. He was on a two-way last year with I can't remember. Portland? Memphis?
I don't remember. Yeah.
So I forget who, but he's had a cup of coffee in the NBA. He's already 27 years old. But then he had a much worse game 2. I do think his defensive instincts are, broadly speaking, in the right place. But not to the level where I'm oh my God, they need to give this guy a contract right now. And then the other guy, I think Darius Brown, who also has played in the G League for a few years. Darius Brown, I thought was very good tonight. But the Suns have a lot of point guards. They're not going to give another two-way spot to another point guard, or at least I don't think they're going to. So I don't know. Have any of them stood out to you? There's only been a few other guys who have really played.
Yeah. We saw some minutes from Jake Stevens today, finally 2 minutes.
Yeah, we did 2 minutes.
They just have a lot of guys who play center. If they're going to play Rasheer Fleming at center, then they can really split time with Kaman and Rasheer on the floor. Corey Camper Jr. played a little bit in this last game.
In both games. He's played in both games, yeah.
In both games, yeah. It hasn't done much. I mean, Darius Brown, I think, has been very clearly the best player. I mean, not to take away from what Javonte Cook did in game 1, but it's hard to know if that kind of off-ball three-point shooting is just something you could rely on all the time unless you've seen it a little bit more, because sometimes guys just make threes. Whereas Darius Brown is doing some creation for himself, some creation for others, and hitting shots off the ball. Although he was bad in game 1, so you never really know with these guys. And sometimes you have a clearer picture of what they are by the end. And maybe at that point, I'll have a stronger opinion, or you'll have a stronger opinion on if any of these guys should stay. But for now, I think, no, none of them have really stood out to me.
Yeah, I would agree, unfortunately.
We
might get there in another couple games.
As far as guys who have stood out, have you watched any games from the top prospects in this draft?
No,
Devonta,
to be honest,
Peterson, Boozer, Wilson.
I have only seen highlights, clips. I have
What do you
not been
think?
watching any of their full games. Yeah, I mean, like, impressive. Caleb Wilson was the big guy with the 7 3-point make game, obviously, because it's like, holy shit.
Yeah, what if he can shoot? Is that question.
Yeah.
And a lot of them were pull-up threes. They were kind of crazy.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't actually remember off the top of my head. I need to look up who we play in the next 2 games because it's none of those guys, is it? Let's see. We play the Bucks tomorrow, Monday. Do you remember who they play on Wednesday?
I don't.
The Pistons. So no, we're not going to see like any of the top tier prospects, unfortunately, unless they make the
tournament.
The tournament.
And then it's possible those guys have to do it too. So it actually is possible. The Suns actually have to win to do that. It is actually win based in order to make the tournament. It's basically group stages right now, and then they seed the tournament based on the records. I watched the Peterson DeBonsa game, and then I watched a little bit of the Wilson Boozer game, and they look awesome, man. They look awesome. Now, you can point at the Peterson game against DeBonsa and say he was bad, but I don't know, like he had 8 turnovers or whatever. Like that's going to happen. He was fully relied on to be the main creator for that team, which I think he's more coming into the league a secondary creator and maybe has the potential to being like the main guy creating offense for everybody later. I mean, you hope so if you pick him at second, right? But he looks awesome. DeBonsa, I really was impressed with. I found myself watching and going, oh, I get it. He's like taller Jimmy Butler. Like I just kind of understood him right away and understood the vision of him in the NBA going forward. And he had a ton of free throw attempts in that game, and that includes them only doing 1 free throw attempt per 2-shot foul or 3-shot foul.
Well, does it still count in the box score as 1 or 2?
Yeah. It
Okay,
counts as 1. Yeah. So it's actually not like you look at it, he has 10, that might have been 20 or more, depending on the situation. And I just think he's going to be very frustrating to some fans because I think that's part of his game is getting fouled. But you can see right away how it's going to work. How like I think it might translate right away is what I'm guessing based on what I've seen from him. Peterson, I've said it since the very first time I watched him. I'll say it again now. Just reminds me of Devin Booker. The way he plays reminds me of Devin Booker. Now he could be that. He could be better than that. He could be worse than that. We don't really know. But stylistically, there's something kind of similar about how he plays and what I think of when I think of Devin Booker in my mind. The other 2 guys, I'll say it again with Caleb Wilson. What's surprising about his game, he broke the record for points in a debut with 35 points. He had 7 threes. You watch his highlights, you watch his film, if you want to call it that. I've only watched highlights. And he looks like Giannis or like Amare. So seeing him all of a sudden hit 7 threes in a game is kind of crazy regardless of the circumstance. Could just be a fluke. You never know with Summer League. We'll watch his next game. Could just be a fluke.
Has he had a game since then? Because that was a couple days ago, actually.
I don't.
So I want to say
maybe
he might
today.
have a game today or something.
Yeah.
Let me look it up.
But either way, like if shooting is part of his thing, I don't think he would have gone higher. Like I actually think the top 3 was pretty set no matter what. But it's just really kind of interesting to think on Amari Stoudemire who could hit 7 threes. I don't know. Kind of interesting is all I'm going to say. I don't know that the passing is there for him. Like that's actually, I think, what would still hold him back compared to the top 3 who all project to be pretty good at creating for others. But, even Amari wasn't good at passing, and there's something kind of fun about thinking about a guy who is, I'm just a finisher in the NBA. You pass it to me when you want to score. And if that's something he can be and average a lot of points doing that, I think he could be I actually think the Bulls team next year could actually be kind of fun. I might actually tune in to some of those games.
Yeah, if you want to tune in to the game before we play it, I have to do the time conversion. We play at 7 p.m. Phoenix time tomorrow. If you want to tune in at 6 p.m. Phoenix time, you can watch Caleb Wilson versus Darren Peterson on ESPN. So that's a fun matchup.
I think I will do that. I'm excited to see those guys play.
Otherwise, some of these scores that I'm flipping through are absolutely horrendous. The Knicks scored 49 points in a loss to the Spurs yesterday as their final score. But I guess you get a little bit of leeway when you just won the championship.
The Suns were flirting with that in the first game when they scored 24 points in the first half. So, yeah. Anything else on any of these guys before we get out of here?
No, not really. I just, I think the story is like, yes, maybe out of the quote unquote others, there hasn't been anyone who's like leapt off the page or leapt off the screen to us through 2 games. But really encouraging stuff, I think, from like the top level guys who are mainly there to see, right? Like we're seated for Koa Pete, for Kaman Malawach, for Rashir Fleming. And, there have been warts, but I think all 3 of those guys have been quite impressive in Summer League so far. So that's like the main takeaway for me and the most important thing. Kobe Brea, please. You need to save your career at this point.
Yeah.
I'm destitute. All of my stock, all of my life savings have gone into this investment paying off, and the odds aren't looking great right now.
I want to see, I think from game 1 to game 2, they leaned a little harder into Koa Pete handling the ball. Continue to do that. Just give him more and more opportunities. Let's see where it takes him. And I don't care about the turnovers. I don't care about the fouls. I don't care about any of that. Just give him chances to try to do the things that he's good at and try to see if you can unlock more ways to do that. For Kaman, I like the restraint, believe it or not, from 3 so far, because at times he's wide open and he still pitches it into a dribble handoff. Continue doing that, but shoot him when it's the right shot. But I would like to see a little bit more close to the rim from him. And for Rashir, I think he's actually doing fine, but to get after those boards, I think a little bit more in game 3 would be a good thing for him to do. And yeah, like you said, Kobe Brea, just make some shots, really. If he was 3 for 6 from 3 tonight, it would be a whole different, he'd have 11 points and it would be a different game. Yeah.
True. Yeah, just play your game.
Yeah. So, all right, that's good stuff. We'll be back. By the way, we streamed this game. We streamed while the game was playing, I should say, in our Discord, which is for our Patreon members, and we're gonna do some stuff like that throughout the season, over the course of next season, and maybe occasionally find reasons to do something like that during the off season as well. So if you'd like to join, it's patreon.com/thetimeline. Only $3 if you want to be a part of our Discord. Have your own little private social network to be about the Phoenix Suns. And of course, $6 a month if you want an extra podcast every week, which we will continue to find topics to talk about on that podcast throughout the off season. We appreciate everyone who joined us today and everyone who's joined our Patreon recently. And thank you everyone for listening. We'll be back with an episode in a few days.